I joined a competition called the Silent Manga Audition. I gave myself 1 week to finish it, and I did 17 pages in 1 week, which is crazy. It's crazy because I normally only do maybe 5 or 6 pages a week, and so doing 17 blew my mind. Now, I gave myself a week because I kind of forgot that it was due. Kinda. But also, it was part of my plan, because I wanted to force myself to have a quick deadline and then record the process of how did I get it done, if I got it done. And spoiler alert, I got it done. And so I have 4 tips, basically, 4 things that I discovered about my own process that radically made it faster. And even at a more relaxed pace, I'm able to produce more work now because of that. So let's talk about those 4 things and let's get into it. Tip number 1 is to move to inks faster. My old style of art was to do a pretty clean sketch and then to ink on top of it. This might be better for single illustrations, but when drawing tons of panels, it's not necessary, because not every panel needs to be a perfect illustration. When you do it this way, when you do a clean sketch and then a clean ink on top of that, you're essentially drawing the same image twice, and so it's just doubling the time it takes to draw every image. Have a little bit more confidence, move straight into the inks, and trust the process, I guess. I think it's something you get more comfortable with doing. I got more comfortable with it by the end of the 17 pages, but it still significantly sped up the process. Moving to inks faster also meant having rougher sketches. So I would have my sketches be just basic guidelines for what I wanted my drawing to be, instead of having my sketches have all of the detail work that was going to go into them. I would just have the rough sketches, and then I do all the detail work in the inks. Even if it was a little bit rougher, it ends up looking clean enough when you're looking at an entire page of drawings. It's a lot of lines, is what I'm saying. This is also the case for 3D models. If you use 3D models to figure out poses or perspective or anything, that would essentially work as my underlying drawing, my sketch. I wouldn't pose a model and then sketch on top of it and then ink it. I would just pretty much draw right on top of that, or minimal sketching on top of it to figure something out. But the sketching was really just a primer for the final drawing. The second point is rougher inks. So one of the manga that I've recently finished reading was Dohoredoro. On top of being an awesome story, it also has really cool artwork. But something I noticed about the artwork is that it's a lot less clean than I'm used to making. The inks are sketchier, and in a way they become more dynamic and looser in areas. I realize that I'm often inking as if it's gonna appear in a coloring book. Everything has to be done in single, clean strokes, which means that if the single line isn't perfect, I'm doing it again and again and again. Control Z is just killing me. On top of perfect lines taking more time, they also just lack energy. So my pages would often look stiff because I was trying to draw them better. Ironic, right? In fact, by drawing worse, in a way, things end up looking better, which is a weird truth I'm still trying to discover. In any case, putting down a line and then being content with it and moving forward and having the lines all work together is a lot faster and feels more powerful. I mean, have you ever you make the sketch and you think it looks amazing, and then you do the inks and you feel like it doesn't? It's because the energy is lost, guys. You gotta keep the energy. Second guessing yourself just adds an incredible amount of time to the completion of a project. Tip number 3 is drawing under your ability. Comics need a lot of drawings, and not all of them have to impress or wow the viewer. There are certainly pages and panels that you want to be more important, but treating every panel as a masterpiece can really ramp up the needed time a project will take. In manga, you'll see panels that show a sword that's really detailed, but then in every other panel, it just looks like a normal sword. Or you'll get shown the background once and then have a lot of other panels with blank backgrounds. The point is, you don't have to show the same level of detail in every panel. So choosing when to show that detail intentionally can dramatically improve your speed. For comics, there should be times that you focus on improving your artistic ability, and there should be times when you focus on improving your execution of that ability. I sort of see them as two different skills, your total ability and your executable ability. Most comic panels only need to be at a baseline presentation. Maybe that's 70 or 80% of your total skill. What I mean is you know that if you spend more time on it, you could make it look better. But it's already at the baseline of presentability. It's not at the level at which you could draw if you had infinite time. The problem is you don't have infinite time, and that's okay because it's not needed. Most panels will be looked at for a few seconds, if that. Okay, but you're drawing under your ability. How do you improve your ability, period? Well, you could do studies outside your comic time. You could use those studies as warm-ups if you wanted to. Studies should be focused on specific topics that you're wanting to improve. You could also dedicate time to learning something new when drawing the important panels, because they're supposed to be looked at more intently anyway, so use those panels as ways to really practice something new. Here's some examples that aren't really perfect but will communicate the philosophy. So compare it to music. A recital isn't the time to redo parts over and over and over again until they're right. When you're having a music recital, you are just going to be doing that music performance to the best of your ability, and if you have a little snag along the way, you're just going to keep going. But obviously, you practice that recital outside of the recital time. I kind of see the finished comic as the recital. So you're just going to do your comic as best as you can in the moment, and then step back and think, okay, how could that have been better? What can I improve later? And point number 4 is probably, honestly, the most important part, which is the part that I didn't really want to hear, and I still don't want to hear, but it is the most important part, and that is to learn what's a distraction. On one hand, it's great that drawing allows us to have the ability to listen to music, podcasts, and audiobooks while doing it. It's one of the wonderful parts of the hobby that got me into it, that I could be listening to a great story or a book while, drawing an image. But unfortunately, what I learned from this experiment is that podcasts and audiobooks are just too distracting for me. I can ink and draw pretty quickly when listening to music, but when my brain is paying attention to a story or the words that are being said, there's literally a noticeable decrease in my speed when I'm drawing, which wasn't an issue when I was inking clean sketches, because that's basically tracing, but this new model requires a lot more brain power to make decisions while inking. There's probably still places where listening to something engaging can be beneficial, especially if you're tired and the thing you're doing is actually fairly brainless, I suppose, like adding effect lines or screen tones. But unfortunately, it's something that I've just had to stop doing. And this is me being honest with you. I wish this wasn't the case. If you're just drawing for a hobby or have a lot of time on your hands, then listening to something while drawing is a really lovely experience. But if you're like me and you were looking for a way to be faster, this might be what you're looking for. I thought that because I could draw and listen to something at the same time, it meant that it was fine to do, but I am almost twice as fast when working in silence. So to summarize the 4 points for you, 1 is have less detailed sketches. The 2nd is to have rougher inks. The 3rd is to not chase perfection in every drawing. And the 4th is to turn off distractions. Okay, I hope those tips helped you. They helped me, obviously. On the website, you can see my entry. I got an honorable mention, which is pretty okay. So all this advice you've been hearing is probably the same. It's, pretty okay. Not the best, but okay. Mentionable. All right, that's it. Also, while we're here, do you read comics or manga? I made a comic book. Buy my book. It's good. Yeah, do whatever you want.